Last time out, Bardock had been whisked away from his homeworld and his family by a very interesting couple of dudes who saw him as some kind of Super Saiyan god. He had no idea what this could mean, but thankfully, and not to mention conveniently, the voice that had pestered the Saiyan for so long since the Kanassans gifted him the power, emerged to provide some much needed context.
At last, I have found you, Bardock. My work is done.
Done? Thought Bardock. What do you mean? You better explain to me what I've been through, got myself into, or maybe, help me for once.
There is little you can actually do to me, but since my mission has been fulfilled, I shall humor you with at least some idea as to what you will be in for.
That doesn't sound good, responded Bardock. The voice then whisked Bardock's mind away from the present situation of looking at an angel's back. I mean, holding said angel's back was already kind of trippy, and then being hurtled through the cosmos at an infinity miles an hour. But Bardock found himself gazing at a figure, which kind of looked like King Vegeta in terms of a silhouette. Red, too, the same pinkish red hue that his hair had been that one time. But the rest of the form was just nothing. It was flat.
What are you?
Shouted Bardock in his corporeal form.
I am 𝒢𝒹, the original Super Saiyan God.
The original? You mean that legend is true as well? The form nodded.
Correct. And for your own curiosity, that other legend is also true, but that is for your son to discover.
What? Spluttered Bardock in a fit of bewilderment. He was then being thrown a lot of information, and he could barely make heads or tails of it.
Thanks to your gift of the mind, I was able to tap into your energy and provide you the clues to access this brand new power. The power that I used to try and hold back the evil Saiyans that plagued our society eons ago.
Evil Saiyans? Were you successful?
No. We lost. Quite badly, in fact.
So much for your might, then. If you lost, what can this offer me?
Bardock, enough!
Roared the entity that was known as 𝒢𝒹.
This power has already saved your race from destruction. Had I not intervened, Planet Vegeta was destined to be destroyed by the creature you know as Frieza.
Bardock thought about this for a second. In the very early days of his clairvoyancy, he had seen the planet blow up, but he hadn't taken it seriously. Frieza would have needed them, surely the Saiyans. They were too useful to erase from existence, right? 𝒢𝒹 continued.
Lord Beerus, the cat that found you, wishes to test your might. Learn what you can, and maybe the Saiyans will never again be at the mercy of that tyrant. Saiyans may one day be free. This is where I leave you, Bardock. I can no longer contact you. The powers that be had permitted me to give you this warning, but nothing more. It is up to you now to acclimate to the power and show that Beerus what for. Perhaps in the future we may meet again, but for now, do this for the glory of the Saiyan race.
And with that, 𝒢𝒹's figure and voice faded away, and Bardock's vision was restored to the sight of Whis' back as they were soon approaching their home. Beerus had noted that Bardock hadn't talked all that much on their trip there.
Well, you seem to be quite mute for a Saiyan. Usually I can't shut you up.
What? Muttered said Saiyan. He hadn't been really registering anything what Beerus had said, but that honestly didn't matter. They had arrived on his planet. Well, I say planet. It was more like a world rather than a physical and spherical planet that Bardock was used to. It looked more like an upside-down pyramid. But this is where he would set up shop for the time being anyway, so it didn't really matter. As long as he could breathe and there was food around, whatever. In the days that followed, Bardock was assessed by Beerus and found to be woefully lacking in power. The cat was extremely frustrated with the meager energy on hand, and the lack of the form that he had been told existed by his attendant. And usually Whis wouldn't make things up like that. However, this was something also that the Oracle Fish had prophesied, and if it were to be the challenge that he had longed for ever since he became a god of destruction, he would be willing to wait. How long for, though, was a complete mystery at this time. To encourage this monkey to play ball, Beerus would dangle the fate of the Saiyans over his head all the time.
Your performance here is directly linked to the future of your people. Failure to improve or satisfy my expectations will lead to their destruction. After all, I am the destroyer of this realm, and I have no qualms in enacting my power at the slightest displeasure of mine. Do I make myself clear, Saiyan? You are here on my terms.
Bardock had been used to the pressure out in the field and so steadily nodded. But internally, he was bricking it. Whis could tell how much this unnerved the Saiyan, but respected his resolve at the feet of Lord Beerus, essentially the most destructive being in the universe, and Bardock was handling himself well. He hadn't been told the existence of other universes though, the Saiyan. It probably would have broken his tiny monkey mind. The first thing to do was to teach Bardock how to use the power that was the Super Saiyan God after having acquired it. Since he had now been infused and subjected to God Ki, Bardock now had a level of affinity with it, and could vaguely sense energies without the need of a scouter. He had been relieved of it not longer after arriving with Whis, deeming it as a foolish and emasculating device. You needn't rely on machinery, Bardock, and instead focus on yourself as the more reliable means of diffusing action. Bardock didn't really know what he was getting on about, but he was keen to learn more about his newfound power and what this power could mean for his people. Not to mention the fact that he couldn't just walk away from this training or else planet Vegeta would be wiped clean away from existence. Beerus had demonstrated his destroyer powers on many rocks and items to him. They would be there one moment and the next, gone. This wasn't just blowing something up. This was more like wiping things away, like they never existed in the first place. With this motivator, Bardock was soon able to regain the form of Super Saiyan God, with Whis teaching him along the way about how to tap into more of it. His power was increasing dramatically with every single day. With Bardock starting to master the power of the Super Saiyan God, Beerus was ever more curious to test his might. But every time he did, Bardock would be immediately toppled over like a pile of bricks. Seriously? Had Whis lost his edge or something?
What good are you then? If you cannot provide me a challenge, then what?
Lord Beerus, please try to think laterally. If Bardock cannot fight you yet, then perhaps his uses could be for other things? Beerus pondered those words for a moment, but then he understood.
Oh, yes, that's a good idea, Whis. Come, Saiyan, we're going to meet your old boss.
Bardock wasn't sure who he was talking about specifically, but it soon would become clear. The next day, Beerus took Bardock to visit Frieza. Bardock was dumbfounded as to why he would do something so reckless as bringing him to Lord Frieza and meeting face to face. But Beerus brushed his concerns aside.
Please, Saiyan, I don't like your race all that much, but I like this piece of work's race even less. If you cannot beat me in a battle, then you may have some other use for the time being.
That use turned out to be in the form of Beerus's stick. At the sight of this Saiyan, Frieza laughed and wondered if Beerus had considered acquiring them as pets like he had done. But when Bardock was ordered to transform, Frieza's tone immediately fell silent.
The legend? Why? Why do you bring this monstrosity to my home, Lord Beerus? I think you know why. You're starting to wander into my line of work a little too often. You mortals should not be getting ideas above your station, or else you will witness what I can do when I wander into your line of work. Go on, show him, Saiyan.
And Bardock, expecting not to be all that strong, rushed Frieza and punched Frieza in the gut with all of his strength, because he really kind of wanted to. But he thought it would do nothing. Wrong. It tore a hole right through Frieza's stomach, sending the Emperor reeling to the floor in agony. Beerus's eyes widened.
Whoa there! A little extreme, eh, Bardy?
Bardock was stunned. He hadn't tested his might against anyone other than Beerus and Whis for the last few months, since he had been carted away to their homeworld. But now he just one-shot at the Emperor, the strongest being he had previously known. Fortunately, the minions of Frieza were ready and whisked their leader away to his private medical pod to recover, shooting Bardock and Beerus horrified looks. But the cat chuckled to himself.
Goodness, that'll keep him in line for a while. Not bad, Saiyan. You please me with your gusto. You must have hated him a lot.
Bardock was anxious.
What makes you so sure that Frieza won't just go and destroy planet Vegeta in revenge for what I just did?
Beerus wasn't worried in the slightest.
Easy. Do what you just did to him again. As you'll soon discover, we godly beings need not fret about such things like tact or repeating ourselves. And whilst your godly powers are lacking in comparison to mine, you still possess them. We're done here. Let's go.
With that, the three of them headed for home. Bardock was left feeling very torn. It was becoming increasingly obvious that Beerus was starting to see him less and less like a proper challenge like he had originally proposed, or even as a warrior. No, he was starting to see Bardock as nothing more than a toy, or some kind of pet that he would like to wheel out and scare defiant beings into submission. Wait a minute. That sounded oddly familiar. That was exactly what Frieza did. He used the Saiyans as his pets to scare worlds into doing his bidding. Wow. Out of the frying pan and into an identical frying pan, as it was turning out to be. The voice that had abandoned Bardock all those years ago returned to see in abject horror what Bardock had become. Granted, he was pleased to see that the Saiyans survived Beerus' beatings for this long, but he was horrified to see that he had been reduced to being no more than a weapon, rather than something akin to a worthy fighter.
My friend, I had no idea that this would happen. Forgive me for leaving you in such dire straits,
said Yamoshi in Bardock's mind one morning.
Yeah, ain't happening. You're lucky too. Beerus is in major food coma right now. He'll be out for a couple of years probably. Means I got time to find a way to get out of here. You know, go see my family. And anyway, aren't your powerful beings worried sick of you visiting me? They can go to hell for all I care right now. Bardock, I should have done this right from the beginning. I had no idea that this cat god would use you in such an embarrassing and un-Saiyan-like manner. I am sorry. Permit me to enter your body fully and imbue you with my godly energy.
Bardock grimaced and clenched his fist.
Wait, you could do that? Why didn't you do that to begin with? You could have helped me out here! Whatever. Don't bother. You're just taking pity on me. Not so. I was too nervous of my own entities. But now, thanks to you, I have realized that we Saiyans should not be beholden to anyone. Now come, let us work together and show these gods what we can do as a race. Bardock smirked. Fine, but you better not take control of my mind, got it? Your mind is yours. I shall merely guide your body through what you're about to face.
And with that, Bardock could feel a sudden surge of energy coursing through his veins. Yamoshi, or what was left of him, the original Super Saiyan God, was now part of his consciousness. But Bardock was in charge of the show. And what a show it would be. It was becoming clear how much of a boost this was when Whis trained with Bardock the next day. He could tell that Bardock had improved, even though he was still nothing in comparison to the angel, but the deity still had to try a little more than before, than yesterday. Nothing that will topple him, no, but it was an improvement. Well done, Bardock. We can now escalate our training. Lord Beerus will be most pleased once he wakes up. Bardock was stoked, realizing the potential of this boost in power. Alright, yeah. No longer would Beerus use him as his plaything. And better news, that 2-year catnap I mentioned turned into something more akin to something like a 25-year catnap. Beerus had overslept. Whis had forgotten to wake him up because he was so inspired by Bardock. And he'd also been keeping an eye at Bardock's request on his boys. Both of them were still alive. Frieza hadn't touched Planet Vegeta since that day Bardock had paid a visit, and in fact, his grasp on it was lesser than ever. It was barely present, in fact. He may as well have just been fully autonomous, Planet Vegeta. The new king, King Vegeta IV, had more power than any monarch had since King Cold darkened their doorsteps. And this led to the Saiyan homeworld regaining even more of its autonomy. Good. Now to finish this rise to glory here. Beerus woke up and was blissfully unaware of his late wake-up call. After all, since destroyers were immortal, 25 years didn't matter, it was a drop in the bucket. He had worried, though, that Bardock could have possibly died of old age while he was asleep, but Whis had taken care of that. He had provided Bardock some magical boosts to slow down the aging process for him whilst he was a student of Lord Beerus. Because if he did well, who knows? He maybe could become a candidate for Beerus' replacement, should that occur. It would be a waste otherwise, Whis thought. Beerus, sure enough, challenged Bardock, expecting him to win handily in a few seconds as always, but this wouldn't be the case today. No. A quarter of a century of uninterrupted training had led to that form. The form that Beerus loathed and barely had a handle on. In that time, Bardock had mastered Ultra Instinct. Yes, I know you might think this is dumb, but this is an April Fool what if, and also Goku learnt this in 2 years. So 25 years, that's not an issue. With the combined efforts of Bardock and Yamoshi's energy, Bardock gave Beerus a run for his money. Yes, Bardock wasn't completely trouncing him, but he was making the cat have to put in some kind of effort. And Whis was finding this all rather enjoyable and took precautions so as to not jeopardize the structural integrity of their domicile. With all of his training behind him, Bardock's urge to win was more powerful than ever. Yamoshi's driving energy had faded away through osmosis, and essentially, the two were the same being now. With this leveling of the playing field, Bardock would no longer allow Beerus to treat him as his lapdog. And when that battle ended, Beerus calling it because he didn't want to lose, the cat was pleased. Well,
You finally came good with your claim.
I didn't claim anything. I just found myself with these powers, but whatever. That's kind of fun.
Alright then, you finally scratched my itch. You may go.
Bardock was puzzled. Where would he go? I mean, I'm never allowed to return? Oh, no, don't be ridiculous. Not if I ever seen it. Besides, Lord Beerus is very forgetful. He will challenge you again when he's bored, which will be quite frequently. But for now, I'll return you to planet Vegeta so you may be with your kind. Here, he gave Bardock a communicator. When the time comes, I shall call you. Keep training, Bardock. I expect that we may be working together more closely someday. Bardock chose not to pry and instead let Whis take him home. When he returned, he reunited with his family and told them everything in regard to his training and how it may benefit them all in the long run. And that is where we end things. Unless you vote for this story in the poll coming May the 1st, but if you're not sure, go and check out the previous stories.